Hello, everyone. I'm Keith Stone, your host for HeroesX Office Hours for V12, and I'm here again with Greg and Sarah and Janet and Elaine. And we are talking about the discussion questions for hours 17 and 18 and maybe a few other items that may come up. So I'll start by reading the question for 17. The Furies are on whose side, really, in the Libation Bearers of Aeschylus? And in the Eumenides of Aeschylus, whose side are they on as well? What do people have to say about this one?
It's a trick question.
That's
It is. And one participant is asking a question, and he's asking, aren't the Furies on the side of those that don't have their interest represented by the Olympian gods?
Ooh. Oh, that is very clever. And it works for the heroic age. It does not work for the present. By present, I mean 458 BCE, the time that the three tragedies of Aeschylus were premiered. Well, not just premiered, were presented as if for the first and last time. It's something that works only in the dysfunctional era of the heroic age, but not in the functional era of the present. And again, the present is 458 BCE, where ritual is going to take care of things. And of course, that's why we don't call the Furies Erinoues anymore in 458. That's not the way we pray to them. We pray to them as Eumenides, nice Furies, nice Furies, nice Furies.
So that formula works the whole way through the trilogy, except for the very end. I guess you could say when things start to change to the present.
And then you really have the signature for the present. It's still in flux until the conclusion.
Could I jump in with a question that's actually come up
Please.
elsewhere and may relate to some of this? And that is, we were talking the other week about Ate, and at what point Ate was sort of ejected from the Olympian gods.
Yes.
And was everything kind of orderly then, or was it already disorderly by the time of the epic, or did it come later, or is that part of the same process?
Oh, I don't think that the system of myths that tell about the heroic age make that much of a difference between earlier generations and later generations of heroes. I think that in any given moment of narration, it's just Age of Heroes. And I would say that the Age of Heracles was messy, yes, but the Age of Achilles is just as messy and dysfunctional.
And that dysfunctionality among the gods as well?
I think so. Oh, yes, because when you think about the rows between Zeus and Hera, after all, they're supposed to be running the universe. This is a dysfunctional couple.
So within the story, Agamemnon tells the story of Ate being removed from Olympus and sent down here, but really that story only really works for us.
Yes,
in the present.
I think so. I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a bit messy, but not too messy, considering that there are some differentiations made between the Age of Heracles and the Age of, let's call it the Age of Achilles, but it's the same old heroic age.
There was a question about Furies being on the side of voiceless. If they are looking after the, may I say, victims, if they are invoked for justice or for vendetta?
Just vendetta. But vendetta is called decay. So decay has to evolve into a deeper or higher, however you like to metaphorize it, idea.
So again, there is a difference between that heroic age, whether early or late heroic age, and the age of tragedy.
Yes, the age of tragedy in the sense of the age of presenting to the body politic. Let's pretend 30,000 of them, if we follow the number in Plato's Symposium, 30,000 people embodying the body politic coming to state theater. That age, yes. But of course, the heroes inside the drama are heroic age, and the mediators, the medium, maybe that's a better word here, is the chorus. I love the way at the beginning of the three dramas we've been reading, and I try not to say trilogy because that's too modern a concept here, but at the beginning of the Agamemnon, how the speaker, who's the night watchman, talks about joining the chorus as the way to refer to the performance of tragedy.
Can we call vendetta as polluted sacrifice? You are sacrificing your enemy and blood is in the picture.
I'd hate to call it a sacrifice because it would be, from the point of view of the present, a bad sacrifice. You don't shed human blood in a sacrificial context. That's what makes the mindset of Electra in the second of these three dramas so problematic. She just doesn't understand the difference between shedding animal blood and shedding human blood. And she assumes that either kind of shedding of blood is sacrificial, but it isn't, or it isn't for us looking back.
So, but to modify it as a polluted sacrifice, or to say it's a perverted sacrifice, maybe.
Yes, and polluted sacrifice, I think, is okay to say it that way, because sacrifice has to be purified, and it's purified by way of drama. Drama should mean sacrifice. And as we know, there's this very strange habit of drama of referring to any action that happens inside drama as drao. Outside of drama, drao would mean I sacrifice. Inside of drama, it's I do this, I do that. It can be good, it can be bad. And it becomes overarching good only in the present, only in 458.
And thinking about this sort of sacrificial language that's being described, participants elsewhere are also talking about the lion cub, for example.
Yes, yes. That's a very good example of a dysfunctional sacrifice, because if the lion cub were just an ordinary boy who was found as a foundling and who was raised, and gee, I've got to make it up to my nice foster parents, and so let me arrange a feast. And the first thing you do when you arrange a feast is have a sacrifice, of course. Sacrifice should be perfectly okay, but here the young boy is a young beast, and it's almost comic. He seems to have good intentions. My wife Holly has shown me these wonderful fables in Indic traditions, then borrowed into Syriac, borrowed into Arabic, etc., where and some animal is really trying to be pious and doing good things for the human who has been nice to the animal. And my favorite is a bear who has been domesticated, sort of. And then I forget, I might really make a mistake in the detail, but the bear sees a fly on the master's face and so throws a rock at the fly and crushes the master's head. So all of these comic, unintentional gestures of kindness, of reciprocity. Beasts don't know how to be reciprocal once they grow up.
I'd love to read some of those.
So it's almost funny. It's almost funny. Gee, Dad, I want to make a nice feast for you. Okay, son. and then it turns, once the lion smells the blood and tastes it, it's all over. Then he just slaughters not just the whole flock of sheep, but the whole family. And I guess I'm not saying that it's really funny in Aeschylus, but there is that undertone. It could be funny. But isn't Aeschylus good to think with? I must say, it's just all there. The language may be hard, but the thinking is so programmatic. It took me eternities to figure out some of the thinking, but once you start getting a handle on it, it's so powerful.
It really grows on you.
Yeah.
Well, shall we go to hour 18, or are there any? Okay, great. Hour 18. The question is, how is the god Poseidon relevant to the plot of the drama Oedipus at Colonus by Sophocles? There are many possible answers to this question, but I would ask you to choose only one answer.
That's cruel and unusual punishment.
Well, it's good
for our poor readers.
Yeah, well, there is one answer. The first one is the only one that comes to my mind is that he opens the earth as god of earthquake.
Oh, I love it.
And
that would be my answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
But I would, if I answered that, I would apologize left and right, because in a sense, the best proof for that kind of answer is in linguistics. May I try it very quickly on you? And that is Poseidon, which is the nominative in classical Greek, is not really a nominative, it's a vocative. Pose means, "O Lord." And then the da of daon means something like of the earth. And you say, what kind of Lord of earth? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But just to give you a quick parallel, in Latin, the nominative of the god of the sky is Jupiter, which we borrow into English as Jupiter. But Jupiter is not really a nominative, it's a vocative. And it would be cognate, it would be an inherited cousin of Greek Zeu pater, Zeus, father, sky, father. So Jupiter should be a vocative, but it's used as a nominative. And then you can see that it's a vocative. When you look at the genitive in Latin, those of you out there who have studied Latin, the genitive of Jupiter is Jovis, Jove, so to speak. And there you see the root that is the cousin of Zeus. But going back to Poseidon, so why is it that you use the vocative for nominative? It's probably explainable in terms of situations where in an earlier phase of worship and myth ritual, you would never or try not to talk about a given god as a third person. You would always have to say, oh, Zeus, you're doing this and you're doing that, because you're praising Zeus, and it would almost be blasphemy to talk in the third person. That Zeus did this and Zeus did that, because that's desacralizing. So anyway, if Poseidon means, oh, Lord of the earth, what kind of a Lord? And here it gets, well, maybe a kind of unwelcome patriarchal mindset is what we're dealing with, is that the Lord or the master of the earth is the one who has sexual dominion over Mother Earth. And so once you get into that Poseidon is the earth shaker because he dominates sexually Mother Earth, then everything starts to fall into place. And again, it's not an inspiring thought for us who have, we sometimes hope, transcended patriarchal mindsets, but that's what it is. And once you think of Poseidon that way, then of course he's going to be a key player in a sacred place where Mother Earth will ultimately lovingly open up and swallow, well, I shouldn't say swallow, engulf the cult hero to be, who is Oedipus.
So at Colonus, Poseidon's relationship with the land is more highlighted, more than the sea. Now, he's also occupying the space, Colonus sharing the space with other gods.
Yes.
But he has his special place, the White Rock, and him.
Well, to me, those wonderful descriptions of Colonus, which is, after all, at the same time, the hometown of Sophocles. Lately, I've been describing it to people as it's Sophocles' love song for his own Mother Earth, because Colonus is the local version of Mother Earth, local version of Athena. And I go back to the beautiful work of my colleague Douglas Frame, who can show that Athena herself is a mother goddess if you shoot her back in your reconstruction a couple of centuries. And she too is a mother goddess, not just a surrogate mother goddess. But let's not get too complicated with how the mythological system of Athens has evolved so drastically in a few centuries. It did. But to me, Colonus is okay, not only a white, shining tumulus marking a cult hero, but it's also by metonymy the whole sacred space, which means you have to factor in Mother Earth, which means you have to factor in the god who dominates Mother Earth. And then how do you think of fertility? Well, it's how the Lord of Earth impregnates Mother Earth, and you go on and on. But basically, if you're going to have a kind of be-all and end-all, a microcosmic visualization of your entire community, Athens writ large, in terms of one of its demes, one of its many, many, many demes, D-E-M-E, which is the very old way that this whole region that is dominated by Athens was subdivided, going all the way back to the 2nd millennium BCE. It was not some invention by the reformer Cleisthenes towards the end of the 6th century. Sure, he did do a lot of reforms, but it didn't invent demes. So here's the deme of Colonus. If I say Sophocles' hometown, it's too secular. His own native Mother Earth. Well, of course, you will not only have the main gods, and you not only have a kind of acknowledgement of earlier heroes who are superseded by later heroes. And don't worry, you can still integrate all of them into one big whole, but you might as well have a Disney World of every god you can imagine. It's a kaleidoscope of gods and heroes, all in this one place, all very localized. You stop thinking of them in an Olympian way, except at the very end where when Sophocles sort of imagines how the hero Oedipus will relate to the earth down below and the sky up above. He can have it both ways. As I try to show in my write-up, it took me eternities to write up this particular part of the book version of Ancient Greek Hero in 24 hours. It's because Sophocles just puts everything in here.
And that sharing of space is something we also saw with our previous hour with the Eumenides and Athena, of course.
Yeah.
And there's a space for Poseidon there as well, actually, in the center of Athens.
Yes.
But going back to what you were saying about Athena as an earth goddess and Douglas Frame's work, we've had a question elsewhere, actually, in terms of Odysseus, who's got this relationship with both Athena and Poseidon. How are we to understand that? Because Poseidon is clearly some sort of antagonist, and we've got that relationship of the oar and the winnowing shovel, the sea and the earth. So we start to see that. And then the relationship with Athena, is that only beneficial? And then also this mysterious death from the sea. And how that works, and is that related to Athena? Is it related to Poseidon, or quite how does that work? And where does Penelope fit into all this as well?
And again, what do we have? We have essentially mythology 101 in the context of this one deme in a vast territory controlled by the city-state of Athens, which isn't really just a city-state. Its people are the demos, which is a weird political way of thinking of all the many demes with all their local ways of thinking of gods and heroes, consolidated into one city-state dominated by the Acropolis. So you have the center and the periphery all beautifully integrated, but the question about these contradictions between Athena and Poseidon, and there are lots of them, and even the question of the big rivalry about who will be the number one divinity, who will be the number two. And as it shakes out, it's Athena who's number one. It's Poseidon who's number two, sort of. But here too, I see a kind of synthesis, a neo-Hegelian synthesis. It's funny to talk about Sophocles as a neo-Hegelian, considering here's Sophocles near the end of the 5th century, and there's Hegel many, many centuries later. But aside from trying to be witty about synthesis, let me give the, I think, best physical illustration. And look, you all know I'm not an expert in natural sciences. And so I'm not going to be able to say this to you in a sophisticated way, but it is a fact, a scientific fact, that olives, which are the personification almost of the goddess Athena in nature, olive trees require saline soil. And here's where I'm going to get very wobbly with my natural science, but ideally, I think you cannot grow olive trees too far away from the sea because they need saline soil. And I'm not going to be able to give you any statistics on this. I'm sure people out there will shower us with a more precise way of saying this. And I don't think it's a counterexample that it's possible for olive trees to grow fairly far away from the sea, but the tendency is try to stick to saline soil. And to me, that's the perfect natural explanation or the synthesis in the mythological world of Athena with Poseidon. I don't see ultimately any contradiction between them.
So when we're looking at Odysseus and Penelope, for example, we're seeing a similar sort of symbiosis, maybe.
Oh, I definitely so. And Penelope is, to me, so much better understood once I read this amazing book by Olga Levaniuk called The Eve of the Festival, which is all about Odyssey 19, and which just explains everything to me about the complementarity of Odysseus and Penelope. I can't say that Penelope is to be specifically related to any of the big Olympian goddesses. Can't say that, but certainly in terms of who she is as the lady in charge of the palace, can I say it that way? It's a very old model, and I think Odysseus fits that model extremely well.
I know our meeting is drawing to its ending time here, so any last items we should address?
How can there be a last thought about this? It's impossible. How about latest?
Latest.
I'm sorry to tease you.
We'll always be back again.
Yes.
Next time.
We hope.
So, we hope, certainly.
So, but any latest thoughts?
Well, I guess I was thinking again about, obviously we've been talking quite a bit about gods, but also heroes, and that there are other sites, not just Athens, as we're seeing through the tragedies, but other sites elsewhere throughout Greece where there was cult worship of heroes and of gods, and that they would perhaps share spaces as well.
Oh yes, sharing spaces is everything, or as I've been known to say, having condominiums. Ooh, what a terrible way to bring this particular conversation full circle. Ooh, condominiums. Erase that thought.
Shared spaces, yeah.
Yeah, shared spaces. My favorite.
Shared spaces, much better.
My favorite's coming up in Hippolytus.
Yes, that's going to be Keith's ultimate drama. Yes, so I can hardly wait. And something else that's coming up is Oedipus Tyrannos, aka Rex, and we will explore the next time we meet why we're reading that only after we read Oedipus at Colonus. I think we're the only group on this planet Earth that reads those two Oedipus dramas in the order in which we read them. I can't think of anybody else who does that, but we have a reason, as we'll see, right?
We'll initiate everyone next week.
We'll initiate.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.